Burkina Faso woke up to a shocking announcement that changed the political atmosphere of the entire Sahel. President Ibrahim Traore ordered the immediate freezing of assets belonging to 113 powerful individuals. These were not ordinary people. They included former presidents, ex-military generals, wealthy businessmen, media owners, and political figures who had shaped the country for decades. Overnight, bank accounts were locked, properties were sealed, and travel permissions were suspended. The message was loud and clear. Power no longer gives protection. The government explained that this decision was not political revenge. It was a security operation. According to intelligence reports, these individuals were allegedly involved in a dangerous plot to assassinate the president and overthrow the government. Authorities described it as a coordinated attempt to return Burkina Faso to chaos and foreign control. For the first time in many years, financial power was treated as a weapon of crime, not as a shield. Many citizens saw this move as historic. For decades, people believed that elites could never be touched. They had money, connections, and foreign support. But this time, the state acted fast and decisively. Banks were instructed to cooperate immediately. No court delays, no secret deals. Everything happened in the open. Supporters of Traore say this action proves he is serious about protecting the nation. Critics say it is risky. But one thing is certain, Burkina Faso crossed a line it had never crossed before. The powerful were no longer untouchable. And once that fear barrier broke, the political game changed. For many years, Africans were told that their greatest threats always came from outside. Foreign armies, foreign terrorists, foreign pressure. But this time, Burkina Faso faced a very different kind of danger. One that did not arrive with tanks, crossing borders, or soldiers marching in the open, but crept quietly through offices, bank accounts, and trusted institutions, because according to government findings, the coup plot was driven by insiders, people who once held power, people who knew this system from the inside, individuals who understood military movements, media influence, and public psychology, making the threat even more dangerous. Because this was not chaos without direction, it was calculated betrayal, with internal actors accused of using their wealth and influence to weaken the country from within. By allegedly funding misinformation, spreading fear through media channels, and attempting to divide the military. And instead of defending the nation, they were accused of selling it piece by piece, which shocked citizens when they realized how close the danger truly was. Familiar names, respected figures, voices people had trusted for years, suddenly redefining the meaning of an enemy. No longer a stranger from outside, but someone in a suit, speaking politely while planning violence in secret. The realization that awakened communities, sharpened soldiers' alertness, and made citizens understand that sovereignty is not only defended at borders, but also inside institutions and resources, forcing Burkina Faso to learn a painful lesson that when corruption and ambition mix, the greatest danger comes from within. And as investigations deepened, the picture grew darker, with authorities revealing that the assassination plot was neither small nor spontaneous, but large, organized, and deeply structured. Described by intelligence services as a violent coup attempt supported by foreign money and external networks, with investigators tracing secret financial movements across borders, money flowing through shell companies and hidden accounts, communications running through encrypted apps, all pointing to a plan designed to remove the current leadership by force. With a goal officials described as simple and brutal: create fear, cause instability, then strike. Using terror attacks to distract security forces and media campaigns, to confuse the public until power could be seized at the right moment. A plot made even more dangerous by its international reach, where foreign interests were allegedly involved not on the battlefield but behind the scenes through funding, logistics, and influence hidden under layers of diplomacy and business, confirming that modern coups are no longer just soldiers on television but bank transfers, narratives, and manipulation. And by exposing the plot early, the state disrupted its timing, broke the silence, and collapsed the plan before execution, allowing the public to where money sits at the center of everything. $1 million were secretly mobilized to fund the coup attempt, constantly moving between banks, countries, and fake companies, buy weapons, bribe officers, finance propaganda, and control media voices, angering citizens who were struggling with inflation and insecurity, while millions were allegedly being used to destroy the nation itself, with the same elites who claimed loyalty accused of funding collapse. And once the account paid, proving how powerful financial control can be when used for national security. Marking a turning point where money was no longer neutral but evidence, and by following the money, the state followed the truth. All while at the center of the storm stood a name that refused to disappear. Paul Henry Debo, once praised as a strong leader, as Dima came to power promising security and stability, but failed to stop terrorism, failed to unite the nation, and failed to deliver hope. Leading to his removal in 2022 by young officers led by Ibrahim Traore, a chapter many believed was closed, until authorities claimed they were wrong, accusing Dibaba of refusing to accept his fall quietly, and now, from exile, planning a violent return to power. With intelligence reports alleging continued contact with loyalists inside the military, media figures, and foreign networks, all with one objective: remove Traore and reinstall the old order. What was once dismissed as rumor has now hardened into accusation backed by evidence, as authorities say intercepted messages, leaked audio recordings, and financial links point toward Demibra's involvement, with claims that he coordinated strategy, funding, and timing from outside the country, allegedly operating from a safe location in Togo, prompting an extradition request that was met with silence. A silence that only deepened suspicion, because inside Burkina Faso, whispers of his influence never truly disappeared. With some still calling him a leader, while others now openly call him a traitor, making the revelation deeply painful for many citizens who once trusted a man responsible for national security and now see him accused of betraying it. And whether proven guilty in court or not, Deba's fall from grace has come to symbolize a deeper truth, that power lost does not always mean power surrendered, as investigations widened, and Burkina Faso's crisis no longer appeared to be a local issue, with officials beginning to speak openly about foreign shadows moving quietly behind the scenes, explaining through intelligence briefings that the coup plot did not survive on internal support alone, but was allegedly encouraged, assisted, and amplified by external actors, not foreign soldiers marching openly, but intelligence operatives, private contractors, and political influencers working discreetly, with reported meetings held outside the country, money changing hands quietly, and narratives carefully prepared for international media. As the government claimed that certain foreign interests were uncomfortable with Burkina Faso's new direction, a nation rejecting interference, abandoning old alliances, and choosing sovereignty, which according to officials made the coup plot an attempt to reset Burkina Faso back into dependency, where media manipulation played a central role, with disinformation campaigns allegedly designed to portray Traore as unstable and dangerous, spreading fear so acceptance of regime change would follow, showing how modern political warfare now functions without tanks but with stories, confirming long-standing fears among citizens that Africa's problems are often designed far from African soil, and that decisions affecting millions are sometimes made in foreign rooms. As Burkina Faso's case exposed how fragile sovereignty can become when global interests collide with national pride, especially in the weeks leading up to the asset freeze, when the country experienced a disturbing pattern of violence, explosions, ambushes, and infiltration attempts appearing suddenly and frequently, initially seeming unrelated but later connected by investigators to a single strategy, revealing the attacks were not random but designed to create fear, confusion, and exhaustion, targeting cities, monitoring military bases, and even attempting infiltration at the capital's airport, with officials stating the goal was not battlefield victory but panic in the mind, as terror groups were allegedly used as tools, fought openly by the government while others quietly benefited from the chaos, believing violence would soften resistance and fear would weaken unity. Yet something unexpected happened. Instead of breaking the nation, the violence united it. As people began asking who benefits from this chaos and why it was so coordinated, leading investigations to uncover financial links between terror activity and accounts later frozen by the state, shocking the public and crossing a moral line with the idea that elites might profit from terror. Prompting communities to stand up rather than surrender, patrols increasing, civilians volunteering, and the chaos-first strategy failing because the people refused to be afraid. And when the truth began to surface, the reaction was immediate as people poured into the streets of Ouagadougou, Bobo, Dioulasso, Kaya, and many other cities. Not with fear, but with voices, flags, and resolve, openly rejecting the coup plotters and chanting support for president while condemning those accused of betrayal. Marking a rare moment where the streets spoke louder than elites, with villages doubling patrols, cities protecting key locations, and mobilization emerging organically. As people realized they were not defending a man but defending dignity. A public awakening that changed everything because coups survive on silence and confusion. Burkina Faso was loud and clear as the people's show Sarari stability, sovereignty, and accountability, leading many analysts to believe this moment marked a turning point, a revolution guarded not only by soldiers but by citizens, a nation no longer asleep. And after stopping the couplet, Burkina Faso did something unexpected, choosing public justice over secret arrests and silent punishment.
What once circulated as rumor has now escalated into formal accusation, supported by evidence. Authorities say intercepted communications, leaked audio recordings, and traced financial links point directly toward Demibra's involvement. He is accused of coordinating strategy, funding, and timing from outside the country, allegedly operating from a secure location in Togo. An extradition request was issued, but what followed was silence, and that silence only deepened suspicion. Inside Burkina Faso, whispers of his influence never truly faded. Some continued to call him a leader, while others now label him a traitor. For many citizens, the revelation was deeply painful. A man once trusted with national security is now accused of betraying it. Whether he is ultimately proven guilty in court or not, Dieba's fall from grace reflects a larger reality. Power lost does not always mean power surrendered. As investigations expanded, Burkina Faso's crisis no longer appeared to be a purely internal matter. Officials began speaking openly about foreign shadows operating quietly in the background. According to intelligence briefings, the coup plot did not rely on domestic support alone. It was allegedly encouraged, assisted, and amplified by external actors, not foreign soldiers marching openly, but intelligence operatives, private contractors, and political influencers working discreetly. Meetings were reportedly held outside the country, money moved silently, and narratives were carefully prepared for international media. The government claims certain foreign interests were unsettled by Burkina Faso's new direction, a nation rejecting interference, abandoning old alliances, and choosing sovereignty is rarely comfortable for those who profit from control. According to officials, the objective of the coup plot was to push Burkina Faso back into dependency. Media manipulation became a central weapon. Disinformation campaigns were allegedly designed to portray President Ibrahim Traore as unstable and dangerous, operating on the principle that if fear spreads, acceptance of regime change follows. This is modern political warfare, fought not with tanks, but with stories. For ordinary citizens, this confirmed long-held fears that Africa's problems are often engineered far from African soil, with decisions affecting millions made in distant rooms. Burkina Faso's case exposed how fragile sovereignty becomes when global interests collide with national pride. In the weeks leading up to the asset freeze, the country experienced a disturbing surge in violence. Explosions, ambushes, and infiltration attempts appeared suddenly and repeatedly. At first, they seemed unconnected, but investigators later linked them to a single coordinated strategy. These attacks were not random. They were designed to create fear, confusion, and exhaustion. Cities were targeted, military bases monitored, and even the capital's airport faced infiltration attempts. According to officials, the objective was not battlefield victory, but psychological collapse. Terror groups were allegedly used as tools. While the government fought them openly, others were accused of quietly benefiting from the chaos they created. Violence softened resistance, fear weakened unity, and insecurity made populations easier to control. But something unexpected happened. Instead of breaking the nation, the violence unified it. People began asking difficult questions. Who benefits from this chaos? Why now? Why so coordinated? Investigations revealed financial links between terror activity and accounts later frozen by the state. The public reaction was shock. The idea that elites could profit from terror crossed a moral line. Instead of retreating, communities mobilized, patrols increased, civilians volunteered, and the chaos-first strategy collapsed because the people refused to be afraid. When the truth started surfacing, the response was immediate. People filled the streets of Ouagadougou, Bobo-Dioulasso, Kaya, and many other cities. They did not come in fear, but with voices, flags, and resolve. Rather than supporting the coup plotters, the population rejected them openly. Crowds chanted in support of President Ibrahim Traore and condemned those accused of betrayal. For the first time in years, the streets spoke louder than elites. In villages, local defense groups doubled patrols. In cities, volunteers protected strategic locations. This was not forced mobilization, it was organic. People understood what was at stake. They were not defending a man, they were defending dignity. This public awakening shifted everything. Coups survive on silence and confusion, but Burkina Faso was loud and clear. The people chose stability, sovereignty, and accountability. Many analysts believe this moment marks a turning point, a revolution guarded not only by soldiers, but by citizens, a nation no longer asleep. After stopping the coup plot, Burkina Faso took an unexpected path. Instead of secret arrests and silent punishments, the government chose public justice. A historic judicial process was launched, bringing military officers, politicians, business leaders, and media figures into the same courtroom. For the first time in the nation's history, power did not dictate guilt or innocence. Special courts authorized under national security laws moved quickly but transparently. Hearings were broadcast, evidence explained, and citizens allowed to witness how justice functions when fear is removed. This transparency shocked observers inside and outside the country. More than 60 suspects were arrested in the early phase, with many others placed under investigation. Bank records, phone data, contracts, and property documents were examined in detail. The message was unmistakable. Titles no longer mattered. Uniforms no longer protected anyone. President Ibrahim Traore declared there would be no sacred cows, a phrase that echoed across Africa. For decades, elites escaped accountability through foreign passports and political connections. Now those shields were being questioned. Justice was no longer selective, it was collective. Many citizens said they were witnessing something they never believed possible, a state courageous enough to judge itself and confront its own wounds. For decades, impunity ruled Burkina Faso. If you were wealthy, connected, or protected by foreign allies, the law could not reach you. That era is now being openly challenged. The asset freeze was only the beginning. Properties linked to corruption were sealed, shell companies dismantled, illegal contracts signed under previous regimes audited, and land taken from communities reclaimed by the state. The government made its position clear. Wealth gained through betrayal would not be enjoyed in peace. Even individuals holding foreign passports were summoned, as diplomatic protection no longer guaranteed silence. Shockwaves spread through elite circles across the country and the continent as leaders watched closely, wondering if this model might spread. For ordinary citizens, the moment was deeply emotional. After years of suffering, accountability finally appeared real. Teachers, farmers, and workers felt something rare: dignity. The law was finally speaking their language. Critics warned of backlash. Supporters accepted the risk, believing justice delayed was justice denied. Burkina Faso chose to move forward. This was not revenge, it was correction. And once correction begins, systems can no longer pretend innocence. Every Burkinabe knows the name Thomas Sankara. Young, fearless, and uncompromising, he spoke against imperialism, rejected corruption, and inspired Africa before being betrayed and assassinated in 1987. Today, many see echoes of Sankara in Ibrahim Traore, the same youth, the same courage, the same refusal to bow. With that comparison comes fear, because people remember how Sankara's story ended, but this time feels different. Sankara largely stood alone. Traore stands with the people. Mass awareness has shifted the balance. Citizens are informed, youth are engaged, and silence no longer protects wrongdoing. History does not repeat itself exactly, it tests nations differently, and Burkina Faso appears determined to answer that test with unity instead of isolation. This is not about copying the past, but finishing what was left unfinished: a sovereign nation, a fearless people, and a future shaped from within. Burkina Faso remains under pressure, threats persist, and enemies have not disappeared. But something fundamental has changed. The people are awake. Farmers are receiving tools, villages are being electrified, youth are finding purpose, and soldiers feel they are defending a nation, not a system. This collective awakening has become the strongest defense Burkina Faso has ever known. Coups succeed when people remain silent. This time, they are watching, questioning, and protecting what they have built together. President Ibrahim Traore is not only fighting for survival, he is fighting for a vision. A Burkina Faso that stands upright. A country that cannot be bought or bullied. The road ahead will be difficult, but history favors those who dare when courage is required. Burkina Faso may be under siege, but it is not defeated, because a nation with awakened people cannot be assassinated.